Hi, I'm Steve. I have an eidetic memory. Here's a perfect recollection of Dark Phoenix. Ooh, look at the little red X, because it's X-Man's. It's cute. Dark Phoenix is 20th Century Fox's X-Men swan song, and in sweeping X-Men tradition, takes an earnest look at real problems in our society in a fantastical, entertaining, and action-packed way. This time the problem is gingers. Dark Phoenix begins with 8-year-old Jean Grey, whose soulless human-shaped husk has finally succumbed to the inevitable fate of all the children of Judas Iscariot. A demon has possessed her. Unable to find a 1975 radio station playing sufficiently terrible music to satisfy the demon's infernal lust for discordant tunes, apparently nobody was playing Steve Miller Band at the time, the demon forces the family car to crash, killing Jean's parents and ruining her mother's plans to cosplay as Ayla the Huntress from Skyrim. After the hospital clears Jean, Professor X shows up and takes her to his New England castle and locks her little goblin ass in the dungeon. Cut 17 years in the future to 1992, and the ever-sturdy and unequivocally reliable space shuttle program has initiated yet another completely intentional life-threatening situation. So Professor X volunteers the X-Men to go into space. They put on their pressure suits and, they don their helmets and, okay. They put on their X-Men pajamas and exit the stratosphere while Xavier plays around in his upside-down room. The X-Men locate the endangered shuttle and use it for target practice just to give him a little scare. You know, just for the funsies. Quicksilver knows an opportunity when he sees one and breaks the outer space record for groping. The X-Men rescue all the traumatized astronauts, but spend too much time looking around with their mouths open trying to catch space flies, and Jean is left behind, absorbing the entirety of the 2019 Nicolas Cage horror film, The Color Out of Space. The rest of the crew have standard reactions to watching Nicolas Cage act, "Close your fucking mouth! Jesus Christ!" And they all head home to a hero's welcome. Holy shit, kid, I know it's 1992, but Blueface is not okay. Where are your parents? The SFX team remembers the specifics of Jennifer Lawrence's contract, and she and Xavier head to the office so she can chew him out. More like X-Hen. Pecked. Ha! Groot eats the rich. Now it's time to party. Jean's brush with Nicolas Cage has her drinking just to keep her hands from shaking. While the kids are partying, Xavier is making his comedic debut as the host of the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he bombs and leaves in shame. Eventually, the post-Cage stress is too much for Jean, and she has a major incident. Xavier uses Cerebro to go into Jean's brain and finds that it's full of jellyfish, so no wonder she's acting all crazy. Jean wakes up and has somehow learned her father is alive. Really, Simon Kinberg? Daddy issues? That's the best you got? Who is this guy? Dear God! Well, I guess we can't expect a hedgehog to understand a human woman. Cyclops tells the team where she's gone, and Charles takes off his 1992 Apple Watch prototype, so you know shit just got real. Jean shows up at her dad's house and starts getting frisky with the walls. She immediately confronts him, asking why he dared to marry another redhead and doom her to a sole recessive existence, but the X-Men show up before he can answer. While Charles and the X-Men are trying to talk Jean down, a squad of police cars show up completely coincidentally and drive their cars like average police officers. Mystique tries to appeal to Jean ginger to ginger, but Jennifer Lawrence wants out of her contract, so she phones it in one last time, and Jean flies away. The X-Men decide to have a funeral for her in the rain, even though there is literally someone who controls the weather in attendance at the funeral. Jean decides to try being a dirty hippie for a while, but she soon learns that even communists have the good sense to reject the Ang Mo. Magneto gives her a temporary stay of execution so that they can talk about feelings. God, Europeans, I swear. When the army shows up to do a training exercise in their helicopters, and it ends up like most helicopter training exercises, with 50% casualties. Since Jean has violated the non-aggression principle, she has to leave. Charles hasn't paid his phone bill, and no amount of cajoling can get Betty from customer service to not shut it off. Jean is once again quelling the cage in her cortex with alcohol.
I like a bit of bourbon. It comes out of Texas.
The influence of Cage's over-the-top style has had such a profound effect on her that she's developed an imaginary friend and named it Jessica Chastain, but she forgot the eyebrows. Charles is woken up by Scott to be told that Hank has disappeared, taken the X-Jet, and gone to find Magneto to enlist his help to find Jean. He tells Eric that Jean killed Mystique, and the two resolve to kill Jean. Jean's imaginary friends tell her about how her exposure to the color out of space has made her more powerful than she could possibly imagine, or something stupid like that, but then gets to the real interesting part and shows her how good Minecraft looks with ray tracing on a state-of-the-art PC. While the ladies are busy punching trees, Eric and his crew show up at the same time as Charles and the X-Men. Charles and Eric can't agree on what to do with Jean, so Eric calls for a rumble, even though he's canonically 62 in this film.
Looking good, baby.
The X-Men and Brotherhood are perfectly matched. Plasma versus metal, Teleporting versus knives, lightning versus hair, balanced, as all things should be. But remember, it's the 90s, and they're filming Keanu Reeves' vehicle Speed right where the X-Men are fighting, so Magneto is able to get inside. He makes a metal snake to kill Jean, but she puts him down. "You killed David Bannister." Jean kicks Eric's ass, so now it's time for Charles to try. Jean uses her American Midwest upbringing to perform a faith healing on Charles, and it works for a minute, but Charles doesn't believe in Jesus hard enough and goes back to being a man. Still a man. A whole man. No Brows tries to experience the color out of space via osmosis, but Charles reminds Jean that giving spoilers to a Nick Cage movie is against the 10 Commandments, so Jean takes it back. Charles realizes his educational style has failed, and there's only one option left for these special people, so they all get on the train to Hogwarts. The train passes through a tunnel filled with mole people, though, who are angered by the transgression of man upon their underworld. The ancient truce has been broken by the surface folk, and they must die for their trespass. The mole people use their superior strength, speed, and reflexes they've gained by taking super mole vitality to make quick work of the guards. The X-Men and Brotherhood pitch in with their anti-mole people powers, but this guy is holding in a poop really hard, so they have to go fast. Kurt shows one the superior dentistry of the surfacers, paralyzing them. Storm uses fresh air, and it's super effective. One of the mole people tries to grab Luna, but she's made the intelligent, tactical choice of keeping her hair cropped and neat, just like in the military, so they can't grab her. Well, shit. Eric gets mad and litters. Jean wakes up, and thus so does Eyebrows. Magneto tries to kill her with a bunch of guns in a scene that would have been totally dope in a better movie, but you can't kill dreams. You can only fail to live up to them. So Jean throws the team in some bubble bobbles and mega crashes the crazy train. Then realizes the only way to get rid of Nick Cage's performance and the color out of space is to return it to the space from whence she came, finally saving Gotham City. And when Alfred sits down for his annual Fernet Branca, he sees Magneto and Xavier seated at the table opposite him, and smiles in silent satisfaction. A fitting end to the 20th Century Fox X-Men tridecimology. Good night, you princes of X.